Once we know that this child has been identified as being eligible for an evaluation, so we're thinking, what kind of educational programming do they need? What are these questions we could ask ourselves that would help us understand their best placement, their least restrictive environment? So, um, IDEA and a researcher, they both suggest that we need to look at communication needs, which seems very obvious. Their chosen language and communication mode, if they're going to need assistance. Their academic level, if they're the purely sensory disability versus cognitive impairment, also, which kind of means talking about to their full range of needs. Um, you could have a child who is deaf and blind, or deaf with cerebral palsy in a wheelchair. So all of those things are going to drastically impact it. So it's not as cut and dry as if they have a hearing impairment, they need some kind of service. We have to ask ourselves a lot of questions. And then we just have to, the biggest one is, what are the child's best opportunities for direct instruction in their least restrictive environment? So even if they're a manual communicator, if they're in fifth grade and they know sign language well, and they can get an interpreter and be in their regular education classroom, that's where they should be. There's some page numbers here for you to help form your opinion or give you some education in this area. But it kind of goes back to that first question. Should the goal of education for students with a hearing impairment be to integrate them into the hearing society, so their regular classrooms, to the maximum extent possible? Or should the goal be to prepare children who are deaf to be contributing members of their own culture? I think those are questions you ask yourself and you reflect on, because you need to know what your own biases are, as you'll be a valuable team member, especially that parent will lean heavily on you in most cases. Personally, I think both. I don't think for sure, I can't say what I think is right or wrong. In that I'm not in a position to state that. I think families are kind of faced with those decisions, and instead of being divisive, I think we just try and help them understand the benefit of both if it's appropriate. So, integrating them with their peers and also helping them be contributing members and identify and own that deaf community as well. Kind of avoid some of that confusion that I think can come for those individuals unfairly. All right, I mentioned this earlier, but a specialized instructional technique, which honestly is not just for kids who are hard of hearing. I think all kids would benefit from this type of visual phonics system, but it is a multi-sensory system that has 46 different hand cues and written symbols that represents aspects of sounds and language. And they did some research that showed 20 kindergarten and first grade students, so let's say 5 to 7, 8-year-olds with hearing impairments made significant reading improvements, which we know is a major issue for this population. So I think this is something to really consider. So watch this video, and then we're going to talk a little bit about technological aids.